Hello, welcome to Stephen Speak Podcast, the podcast. You might have seen my social media post. I have actually uploaded, I don't think uploaded is the right word, but written and copy and pasted the first blog entry to the website. So go to stephenspeak.com to peruse some verbal bullshit from me instead of audible bullshit. Today's episode is, as my lovely wife is away on holiday at the moment without me, long story, she doesn't often go away without me, I thought I'd talk about, like living alone, and how I lived alone for quite a long time, and the joys of living with someone, and the joys of living alone as well. So that's the title today, so let's get into it and kind of discuss that. Welcome to Stephen Speak the Podcast. Unscripted prattle on everything and nothing. Beautiful. So as I say, Sarah's away on holiday. Basically, her auntie couldn't go. She had to pull out of a holiday that was booked with the mother-in-law. So Sarah got to grab a freebie of a holiday, which is nice. She felt terribly guilty to leave me. But, it's fine. I lived alone for about 12... Yeah, pretty much spot on 12 years. I bought my first house. I'm very honoured and honoured, is that the right word? Privileged, maybe? Hang on, that sounds like it's like a silver spoon thing. I worked hard for the house. Lucky maybe to be in the position to buy a house at 21. I was just turned 21 when I moved in. So back in the day, I left school in 2000, got a part-time job on the railway in 2001, and when I left college, my plans to join the army, as I've spoken about before, fell through. So I took a full-time job with the railway, and very lucky to be on quite a reasonably good wage for someone of my age, and I lived it up as much as I could. I used to have a lot of arguments though with my parents, mainly my mother, to be honest, because we're like a personality clash. My dad's quite easygoing like me, but my mum used to personality clash with us, and she changed the goalposts on when the money was due and stuff like that. I paid rent, and then there was the whole issue of like me paying more money than my brother paid when he was a student, and up to a certain age, and I didn't think it was fair that they made a difference for him, considering I didn't go to university. And there was a whole debacle, and basically one day I talked my parents into upping my keep. I think at first I was paying like £100, and that was when I was at college. That's just not. I was earning a bit of money, I was probably earning like £100 a weekend, so I still had like £300 disposable income. And then when I got a full-time job, like I probably they upped it to like £200, I think it was, or £220, something like that. But I still had like £700 disposable, which is pretty good. I was earning anywhere between like £800 and £900 a month at that point, which is not bad for like a 20-year-old. Managed to save and get a motorbike and stuff. And it wasn't ideal living at your parents' house, but it was okay. And we got into some arguments and stuff though, and then I basically got into an argument with my dad about the rent, and I basically said, why not? It was a bit of a back and forth, really, and I was like, you know what, it may as well bloody be £300 on it, and my dad walked into the room just as I was verbally shouting at my mum, which you shouldn't really do, to be honest. It's not respectful, but, it does happen, families have arguments, and my dad walked in and went, yeah, right, then it's £300, go and withdraw out of the cash point, and I was like, no, am I joking? He was like, no, it's £300, and I was like, ooh. Right, and I think what really hurts me is I knew what my mum dad's mortgage was and bills roughly, so I was pretty much paying the bills for them in the house and a bit of food. And to be honest, when I started working, I used to buy a lot of my own shopping. My mum would probably deny this, but I used to buy bread and I pretty much lived on super noodles and stuff like that, or pasta bakes and stuff. I used to make my own pasta dishes and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, I didn't not use the food that my mum had bought, but I did use a lot of my own stuff, and because of like eating at work. I used to make food or take food with me or buy food at work and stuff. So yeah, I felt a bit aggrieved really that I was paying so much money, especially when my brother paid so little. So anyway, I started to look for rented accommodation. So I thought, oh, you know what, screw this, I'm going to move out. And my mum and dad basically said to me, well, if you can find somewhere for £300 a month with everything, good luck to you. But I was earning a bit, and I thought, I'm not bothered about paying a bit more, but I want it to be in my own place. I don't want it to be, going to their pocket to go on holiday with, because pretty much I was financing holidays as well, really. I don't begrudge it now, just at the time, when you're young and you think you know better, don't you? Sorry, I've got a bit of a dry throat today. That's why it's a little bit late going up, because I'm... I was trying to sort out some LED lights for my room, for my cave, and it all went wrong, and I wired them all in, and they didn't work, and I plugged them into the wrong thing. So I had to go and have a break downstairs, basically, before I had a breakdown. And I've had a bit of a dry throat all day. I think it's because the heating's been on a little bit, because it's been so cold. Anyway, but I looked at renting, and there wasn't really anything suitable, so I basically said to my mum and dad, this was summer of 2003, and towards the end of the summer, and I said to them, listen, get this year out of the way, and then start of the next year, I'm going to really start saving. I'm going to buy a house. It's probably wasted money anyway, and I kind of got them to agree that from the new year they'd lower my rent again to help me save, which was nice of them, and I did. I got a plan, and I was like, I'm going to start putting a bit away every month. Didn't put away as much as I was telling them, but they weren't asking for proof, and they were happy. I'm quite trustworthy. Apparently not, though. But unfortunately, they got divorced that year. It was 2004, and I'd applied for a new job it was the March, April time, and literally at that time, and when I was transitioning jobs, they got divorced, that's a separate story, and it's a private story, really. I'm going into details. But yeah, it didn't really affect me that much, because I was an adult. I was 20 years old, and their business is their business. So I was like, well, this just strengthens my thing to move out. That they've got to sell the family home, and it's now forced upon me. I kind of wish that I saved a bit more money and not lied about that. But yeah, so that forced me out of the family home. Forced my hand a little bit, because I think I was a little bit blah, blah, blah. I'll do it when I can, kind of thing. And I got my bedroom in my house, in my mum and dad's house, how I wanted it. It was like a little mini apartment, to be honest. They went on holiday once, and I asked them, could I have permission to redo it? And I put all new floor down, and it was quite a small room. So I wanted to make the most of it, so when my mates came around and stuff, it was comfortable. So I got rid of these big, massive wardrobes, and I built my own. I built frames. I never finished them, unfortunately, because we moved. And I built all these frames, and I put a new floor down, and painted it and everything. It looked really good, if I say so myself, really. And we moved out. And I went and found a house, and obviously being young and not on a massive wage, I could only find a terraced house, which was a sensible purchase, really. Because I think when you're buying a house, at the time they were willing to give you 5 times your wage, but there was no affordability. Now when you go to a house to get a mortgage, well, that's what you do, isn't it? When you go to get a mortgage, they look at affordability a lot more now, whereas back in the day they were right, you're on this much money, times it by 5, that's what you can borrow, and they didn't really see if you could actually afford that. So I could borrow 5 times the wage. I mean, they offered me something stupid, and it wasn't even 5 times a wage. So I don't even know how this came out, because I think at the time I was on 17, 18 grand a year. Basic, and they offered me I think it was up to £200,000 to borrow, but then the mortgage over 30 years or 35 years, whatever, I think it was a 35-year mortgage I took out at first, which is scary when you're 20. I was like, oh my god, it's the longest time ever. And but the mortgage repayments a month were something to £600 or £500, and I was like, I only have £900 coming in. It's £400 to pay everything else, food, everything. That's not on. So in the end, we settled down and we got a lower mortgage, something more affordable. So I bought a terraced house, more affordable house. 5 what I needed, 2 up, 2 down, little backyard. I didn't drive at the time. I already had my motorbike, so I could still park my motorbike in the yard. So yeah, so that was gonna be. Little did I know, but my home for for the next 12 years, and I never really expected to stay there that long, to be honest. For me, it was always like, right, I'll get this house, I'll pay for it, not outright, obviously, I'll stay there and pay the mortgage, and, in a couple of years' time, two or 3 years' time, hopefully I might change jobs or had an improvement, to my wage and stuff, and I'll find, like, a bigger house with a driveway, so I could up my game and, improve my life, and as my money goes up, I'll improve my, as I'm young, I'm on the property market, blah, blah, blah. But, things don't happen like that, relationships come and go, money comes and goes, you have different things and different priorities in your life, and let's just say anyone that knows me, any of my friends that know me, buying a house at 21 is fantastic. I was probably one of the only friends that actually had done that, so it was like a little party house. Feel sorry for my neighbours, to be fair, but yeah, it was a house that I never really wanted, though, so I was never really 100% comfortable there. I would say it was forced upon me. It wouldn't have been my choice of house. I would have liked to have had that time, maybe stayed at home for another year or two and saved up a substantial deposit and bought like a 3-bed semi or a small detached house, something that was more of a starter home for me, from more of what I imagined, at least, anyway. So yeah, I've got this 2 up, 2 down, in a not bad-ish part of Crewe. I think most people in Crewe would say that it's erring on the rougher side, but I would disagree. It was always all right. There was obviously, it depends on where you walked as well. Obviously, it's like most places. It depends on whereabouts you were taking cut throughs and stuff. But I think most places have things like that. But it wasn't too bad. And I would say I would live there for 12 years. I wouldn't really decorate it properly for quite a considerable amount of time. I'm one of these people that I have plans in my head, and I've said this before, like, I have a plan and I have a vision, and it took me a while to see that through, and I actually kind of, because I never saw myself staying there for that long, ironically, I never really want to invest into it too much, and I bought this 2 up, 2 down. It didn't have central heating. It had a gas fire in the 2 downstairs rooms. One of them was condemned after I moved in, and a heater in the bathroom and a heater in the main bedroom at the front, and the middle bedroom didn't have any heating at all. But all in all, it wasn't a bad house. Within a year, I'd put double glazing in it, and had the gas fires done, and so they were working more efficiently. And you do these things when you move into a house. But I didn't really want to. I was quite lucky because my mum would give me some furniture and a washing machine and a fridge, so I didn't have to buy some stuff like that, like white goods as they call them. So I was quite lucky in that sense. But my house became like the party house, really. Like I was. I used to get a weekend off every month, so on that month I would either go down to see my mates at university. One of my mates was, turns out both my mates, because I got to know his older brother quite well, and I used to go down to see them in Aberystwyth with the university, and then when I wasn't doing that or they were back, we'd have parties at my house, like themed parties, and like we had some crazy times there, and yeah, like, we were painting in the hallway, because, like, the living room and stuff, I never really knew what to do with. I had my TV and stuff on the wall, but there was, like, wallpaper up, and didn't really know 100% of what to do. And I'd sporadically, like, try and improve stuff, but it was always, like, when I was drunk, I'd come in drunk. Like, we had, between the living room and dining room, there was, like, these concertina doors, and they were terrible. And I'd started to paint them to make them look nicer, but I just hated them. Like, they didn't work properly, they were, like, the hinges weren't great, and they needed completely, like, redoing, really, and they were cheap, and I came in drunk one night and I just ripped them down. Like, I just pulled them off the hinges, but then I didn't do anything with them for I never actually replaced anything. I just had it as an open thing for forever, really. And in the end, I put a big curtain up to keep the heat in just the living room, like a big heavy curtain. But yeah, these are the things I used to do, and I remember my friend Phil came round. I think it was Phil, Scott, and Neil, and we were painting. We basically had a beer painting party. So I'd already had quite a skinful when they all turned up, and I was painting the hallway and the landing and stuff. And so I was decided that I was going to sand all the floors down and paint all the floors upstairs because they were all wooden. So I did that, and I decorated my bedroom, and made some improvements to my middle room, which was like a music room. And in the meantime, I'd had a lodger of my friend from uni. When she came home from uni, she lived with me for the summer. That's another story. And just did bits and bobs to the bathroom just to improve it slightly, like resealed the bath and stuff. But I say the living room and dining room didn't really do anything to. And I remember we were decorating that day, And we were running out of paint, and I was like, right, once we've done this little bit, it doesn't need a second coat, we've done it, like... And I just remember writing, and it's not really politically correct, so I apologise to anyone from the LGBTQ community, but I wrote on the wall, because it's funny to me, at the time, Phil is gay, with the brush, or the roller, on the living room wall, over top of half-ripped-off wallpaper, much to Phil's horror, really, because he was... getting a bit tipsy at the time, and he was a bit aggrieved by it. But then there was no paint left over to like kind of brush over it, kind of thing. So we got a roll, and he was trying to roll it out, but it just highlighted it. Really, it was like he'd highlighted the words, which was even more funny to me. And I think that was on the wall. And don't judge me, for about 6 years. Maybe 5 years, maybe 7 years, I don't know. It was on there for a long time. I didn't really truly decorate the house properly and have a working kitchen. I'll come back to that. Probably for about, I don't know, 8 years or so, maybe. 8, 9 years? I don't know. It was a long time. Anyway, living alone was brilliant. But it also came with some downsides. I'll get to the fucking point of the actual podcast. Living alone was brilliant, but it came with some downsides. Like the job that I just started when I got the house was working alone. I used to work on cruise stations, surrounded by, obviously, customers, other co-workers and stuff, but I transferred a job which involved... I did a course all that summer, and I moved into my house and started my job at the end of the October. Well, I started my new job in the October... No, I know I did. I started my new job and moved into the house at the end of October, beginning of November 2004. So I'd gone from like living in a house with people, working with hundreds of people and interacting with hundreds of people and dozens of staff members, going out with my mates regularly as well. And now they'd gone to they were at university, and my shifts didn't really. My previous job, the shifts were a little bit better, really. I don't for seeing people. So I went from I went to living alone and working alone, basically, because this first signal box that I went into as a signaller was a single staffed box. So it was me there for 8 hours a shift, maybe not even speaking to anyone all shift, because the life of a signaller can be a lonely one. If you haven't had any incidents and you don't need to speak to the adjacent signal boxes, then there's no need to, and you just keep signalling trains. So I could potentially go weeks and not really speak to anyone that I wanted to, or literally I would speak to them, but over text and maybe a phone call. But like seeing people physically is completely different, isn't it? Like making that eye contact and actually seeing them, and it did drive me a little bit mad in a sense, because obviously working alone, like I've always talked to myself, like even as a kid, like I would like talk about what I wanted to do, or I would practice things I wanted to say to people, so I didn't sound silly. As the more I do these podcasts, the more and more I think I'm neurodivergent, because it just I hark back to my childhood and just think about things. But yeah, I used to practice what I was going to say and stuff like that. And the imagination episode is I think it was the third episode of this podcast. And one of the most popular episodes, actually, maybe for the reason that I talk crap in it and explain what I do. But I've always done it. I still do it. Do it. I still do it now. Like I will talk to myself and imagine things and role play in my head. And I did that a lot when I lived alone. Like I would have conversations. I would pretend someone was there to have a conversation with, and that sounds insane. But I can see where people that live alone kind of get some sort of, or if, like prisoners and stuff, like, or someone that's solitary would kind of get comfort from that. And that sounds really sad. I'm not trying to like give a sob story there, but that's what I did. I was like rehearsing things to say and trying to be concise, and or I would just imagine conversations with someone, and not even sometimes my friends. I'd imagine a conversation with a celebrity, or pretend that I had a celebrity around for tea, and that sounds terrible. Like it sounds like I'm mental, but it was just to keep my brain going, because like I would just pot around my house, and I kind of felt like I was imposing on someone as well. When you live alone, I think I kind of felt a little bit embarrassed about my house as well. It was kind of like a running joke that it was like a student house. It was like the bachelor pad, but fundamentally, I felt embarrassed about bringing girls back to my house because like I could joke about it and say, "Oh, it's a bachelor pad. You know, I'm saving up to do this, this, and this." But I never did it because I used to buy a guitar. Every time I save something, I'd buy a guitar or buy some musical equipment or, basically fritter my money away and rather than invest it into the house. And for them, quick wins really. And that was like looking back, that's probably what I shouldn't have done. I should have got it sorted and sold it. Hey ho, I had lots of nice times there. But it also was a house that I had some nice times there, but it was a house that it had this stigma over as it was forced upon me from the divorce. But living alone is hard. It is hard, but it's also brilliant. It's also the best thing ever because you don't give a fuck about what anyone wants to do. If you want to go make a brew, make a brew. You want your tea at midnight, have your tea at midnight. If you want to get up in the middle of the night and have a brew, do it. If you want to just watch TV all day, do it. If you want to do 8 loads of washing in one go, just one after the other, hang it all out, do it. And that freedom is liberating. You don't have to concern yourself with some other people. You can be completely selfish. I've literally not been able to sleep or woke up in the middle of the night wide awake and just got on my walk back and gone for a ride. Would I do that with Sarah in the house? Probably not. No, because that's weird. I feel like that's weird now because I've got Sarah here. Why would I do that? Now, she would probably say to me, if you feel the need to do that, you obviously need to do that. That's something that you're inclined to do. Should I do that? I don't know. There's a different dynamic when you live with someone. I for sure feel obligated to not be me, I think, in some sense, which is weird because I've never been more me with a person than with Sarah. But yeah, I think the whole dynamic of living with someone is you have to be more understanding, and it's a bit of a give and take. And I think from living on my own for 12 years to living with Sarah, I'm lucky she's like so laid back, and she's pretty open to, if that's how you want to do it, then great. This is how I would do it, but I'm not really bothered. So I'm quite lucky in that sense because I know like some people would be really like putting the foot down and saying, no, you're wrong. This is how we're doing whatever it is. But it does frustrate me because I also don't tell her a lot of the time what I feel about things around the house. And I think I need to more, like, the layout of the kitchen. Why like women aren't logical with some things. Like for example, salt. We have table salt in a big, like salt's a condiment. So we have spices and herbs and stuff in a cupboard all together. And she's put one sort of salt in the cupboard, which we sometimes put on chips, and the table salt in another cupboard, because that's table salt in the other. And I'm like, why don't you just put the salts together and I know where the salt is? Because I would just be like, well, salt's in that cupboard. We have a little salt part separately, but the main spare salt, I suppose you could say, should be with salt, surely. I don't know. That's how I feel about it, but she doesn't get that. But she's also not against, I think, moving it. There's a lot of things like that. I think that men and women differ. Like, I think logically with stuff around the house, and that is what that gets me a little bit about living with someone. And also the thing that I feel, I've said this before, I feel guilty about doing stuff. So like when I lived alone, I could just get up and just do something. I wouldn't have to think about how it was impacting someone. So now when I live with someone, you've got to think how it impacts them. And again, this is not on Sarah at all. Like, she just really not give a monkey's arse like what I get up to half the time. As long as I'm not killing someone or like pissing the money away of the house, like, she doesn't really care. Like, if I just said to her, like, I'm going to go out and have a coffee, like, she might say, oh, do you want to go alone or can I come? And if I said I really want to go alone, I want some me time, again, she's chill. She wouldn't care. Like, she'd be like, okay, we'll go another time in the week. And I'd be like, yeah, okay then. But I don't do it half as much as I should. And now she's away this week. And I have mixed feelings about it. I'm really happy that she's not here so I can make a mess, because I've said before, the way I tidy is not a normal way. I have to like rip everything out, stack boxes everywhere, go through everything, sort it into types of objects and whatnot, and I literally have to have like a clean canvas to then go back onto, which is really frustrating for me, to be honest. It's a bit of an arse, but it works for me. It's just, and it always ends up like super tidy in the end. But when I lived alone, I could just leave stuff for weeks on end. So if I started tidying a room, I'd be like, right, them boxes, they're staying there until, whenever I get a chance to do it again. Whereas now if I start something, like I feel like I can't start it because I know how I tidy. But this week, I'm doing a bit of tidying. I'm trying to organise some stuff. We've had some stuff that needs doing for a while. So it's my plan to try and do these things because I wouldn't really get a chance when she's here. And it's weirdly enough, I was talking to a guy from work, and he said the same. Like, his wife went away once, and he got a load of DIY done, and she was amazed. And she said, "Why don't you do that when you're in the house?" And he says, "I don't know. I feel like I should be spending time with you and not doing the DIY." And she was like, "Well, I want you to do the DIY, so just you can do it when I'm in the house." And he says, "I don't know. I feel like I get on better. I can focus better when you're not here." And that is exactly like I am. Like, I was amazed that someone felt the same. I know that sounds stupid, but it's funny when someone's talking about something and you think, "Oh my god, I relate to that so much." Like, so this week I feel a bit rough actually. I've got a bit of a dry throat, as I've said, so I don't know if I'm coming down with a cold or something like that because I've been outside, in and out and stuff at work and that. So I don't know if I've been a bit of exposure. Well, not exposure, you know what I mean. But yeah, I think I'm going to try my best to try and get certain things boxed off in the house, literally boxed off, and I put some stuff down from the attic, some of my collectibles, and I've put some of them out, and I've moved stuff around. I mean, today I was doing the LED thing, and it's gone awry, but we'll get back on track. We'll get back on track with it. But yeah, I think that living alone is really good, but you've got to be careful that you don't get too used to your own company and them habits of I can do what I want anytime I want. You've got to watch that as well, because I think at one point I did get pretty selfish. Now I would get quite annoyed as well, like with not with Sarah, but with older like previous partners, that they were trying to grab my time. I'm a really social person, but I also like to be alone. Like, when I mean alone, I mean alone, but it can just come upon me. And again, I don't know if any of you guys are the same. Sometimes if I get too much exposure or at the wrong time, like, I'll be like, you know what, I'm out. I'll play along for a bit and I can put a brave face on it, but then I might need a couple of days to recover. And then other times it doesn't affect me at all. Like I think it depends on my mood and my, what shift I was working or whatever like that. But yeah, it's really bizarre. But I think working and living alone and working alone, it did take its toll on me. And then, as I say, I'll come back to the point, like, you feel a little bit like you're imposing on people when you text them saying, "Oh, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Do you want to do this?" And yeah, it was a bit of a strange time for me. But 12 years, that's a long time to live somewhere. I think, is it the longest I've ever stayed anywhere? No, I think the house that I left, it was the family house. I think that is, maybe. Yes, that is the longest one. And time flies so much. We've been on our house that we live in now nearly 5 years. It'll be 5 years, I think, coming, which is crazy to think of as well. Good for me, because it means my mortgage is going down, even though we had to take a little bit of a larger one to move here, because it was a bigger house, etc. But, I didn't want to increase my mortgage too much, so we try and pay it as much deposit and stuff. But, yeah, it's just, getting on that property ladder is pretty important, and in some sense, just to have that security. And I'm quite lucky with Sarah, to be honest. Like, she's a good house partner. I think what we need to do better, though, is share chores, because we can both, like, lapse on the old hoovering and dusting and stuff like that. And I think sometimes I presume because she doesn't work that she should do most of it, and that's probably wrong of me, because when I lived alone, I used to work like 40, 50 hours a week and do everything as well, so there's no really excuse for me to say that she should be all on her, so I need to rectify that, I think. But yeah, I think I shall do another Stephen Speak on some of the parties that I had, and some of the things we got up to, maybe on some extra speaks, and just say about some of the antics that I got up to when I lived alone. But until then, take care of yourselves, check out the blog, and I'll speak to you soon. You've been listening to Stephen Speak the podcast. Thanks for listening to my unscripted prattle on everything and nothing. Visit stephenspeak.com for updates, information, and my blog. You can follow more updates on social media at StephenSpeakPC. Thanks very much, and I'll speak to you soon.